Welcome back, everybody, to the Thane podcast. Today's guest is Alisa Host. She is a mural artist, a blogger, a writer. She's currently a full-time traveling artist. She's from Geneva, Switzerland, but she's currently in Norway right now. So, how is life in Norway, Alisa?
Well, I I arrived 2 weeks ago. I was mostly in Sweden, so I don't know. I only work. I didn't really discover anything yet.
So, you were doing work in Norway already? Is that what brought you there?
Yeah. I only moved for work, so I paint different mural paintings.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, here I'm painting currently on a hotel facade outside. So
Oh,
it's a big
wow.
project. Yeah.
What's the hotel that you're painting for?
You in the name?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's Bergen Hostel Montana.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's more like it's also a hostel, and it's in the mountains in this
Mm-hmm.
city called Bergen. Yeah.
So, what are you painting there?
So the mural. Well, the topic it's hard to describe. I mean, it would be better to show, but it's yeah. I mean, it's a mural painting that will cover the front facade. It's about nature, sunset, landscape. It's something
Okay.
that I usually do, but it's not
Like a
only this.
nature
But
themed.
yeah.
That's awesome. And so, how did you get that job?
Well, it's always the same. I always post on Facebook groups, and I wait for people to contact me. Yeah. So
That's great.
I posted in Norway because I wanted to leave Sweden for a bit and see more mountains. But finally, I cannot walk at all. So yeah, I cannot do much. I have some bad pain issues. So, but it's okay. Yeah. So it's nice to be here still.
So, the mountains in Norway are really beautiful.
Well, I haven't seen much then, but I guess because originally I am from a country that has a lot of mountains. I don't go there anymore, but I missed seeing mountains, and in Sweden it's very flat. Yeah.
Hmm. So, you grew up in Switzerland and then you lived in Sweden for a while and then you started traveling?
No. In fact, I left 3.5 years ago, and because of the pandemic, I could only live in Sweden. But I was never at the same in the same city. I moved every month, so for the last 3 years and a half, I've been moving monthly, but mostly in Sweden and a little bit in Spain as well. I passed because I don't fly, so I passed through Denmark. Also, I made a mural there and Germany, but yeah, I didn't travel to very far. Only between the south of Spain and Scandinavia.
So, what started this whole traveling artist thing?
The pandemic, mostly. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What was it about the pandemic that made you want to travel?
The
Normally, that's when everybody else wanted to not travel.
Yeah, right. I didn't even think of it. No, it's because I was living in France, in the border of Switzerland, and there it was really bad. They didn't let people go out of of their home. You had to sign an authorization if you wanted to go. I'd say it was absolutely like we were jailed, so I couldn't stand this situation. So I decided to leave completely everything I had there because I felt like
God.
I had to flee. And yeah, that's why. And I read in the newspaper that Sweden were absolutely not gonna do anything. It was, I think, it's one of the 3 countries in the world, no face mask, no lockdowns, and they thought it was really too much to do this, and they didn't want to impose it to the population. They did other things instead that worked even better. And so but I couldn't get there because, of course, the borders were closed. So I waited 3 months in a mountain cabin that someone lent me, and then I managed to go to Sweden. It was June 2020, and that's how it started. I wasn't a muralist; I was only an artist. I worked with canvas, exhibitions, many different things, but never on walls. But because I had nothing with me and I didn't want to carry anything or store anything, I thought, oh, okay. But someone offered me to make a mural one day, and I thought, but that's a great way to develop another kind of artistic career to paint on walls, and then
Yeah.
the art stay there. You don't take it with you. and it's accessible to everyone. It's not like you. I think it has a form of hypocrisy to exhibit in an art gallery and then everyone looks and then you take it down a basement because they didn't buy it, you know. But here, if you make a mural, it just stay there. People can just look at it even when you are not here anymore. So it really matched my minimalistic new lifestyle. So then I started to do it more and more. And after 2 years and a half now, I only do this. I just travel from one place to one place to do this. Sometimes it's not a Facebook group. Sometimes people ask me because they saw my work. But mostly if I want to go to another city because I feel like I don't have work in this area, then I post and then I wait until... Mostly, I prefer that it's a business that contacts me, but I could also, of course, do a private house.
So what type of Facebook groups are you posting in whenever you're looking for these jobs in other countries? Like, is it you just type in like Norway small business groups or like?
No, it's every kind of group. I only go to groups that have I don't, only the one that allows it, that has a lot of audience, and that's it. Yeah, it's not specifically for painting.
So you just look for stuff that. So you look for stuff that's like in specifically Norway,
Yes.
like Facebook groups in Norway whenever you're going to find a job in Norway.
Yes, if I choose a specific city, not for only for other countries, but just cities. Like the name of the city has groups, a lot of groups. And then you're able to post sometimes tips or just anything. Of course, if it's a group that is specifically on, I don't know, dancing, like I won't post, of course. But if it's a group for just allowed to say, hey, I'm a muralist, and if you have a wall, or so then it gives me a great visibility. Well, of course, it cannot work as well. It doesn't always work.
Yeah. Do you post a picture of your work whenever on the groups, and is that normally what attracts people to it? Is they see your work and they're like,
yeah, exactly. I put a bunch of pictures of the previous things I painted, and exactly a message, and I explain what I do, and then I talk more when they contact me.
So do those jobs pay well whenever you're traveling?
Yeah, it really depends. It's completely different. There are some places that offered me really something I wouldn't even ask. But there are some that say we only have a hotel room and you can eat at the restaurant every day, and then you can stay 1 or 2 months, and then for me it's more than enough, because it's like a lot of it would be a lot of money because what I want more than the money is where should I stay. Then it's not very interesting for me. But if it's for sometimes of money, because it would be hard for me to find the accommodation and stay in this city for 2 months, because it's not really easy to just find something, or you need a lot of money. But if they have an apartment and it's empty, for example, it would be more interesting for me, and then they would have cash for all my expenses, for example. But it's more expensive than just receiving some kind of money and have to do the job for like very, very fast, for example, like work night and day to finish within 2 weeks. So for me, it's more interesting to have these things for longer. If I had a home and then they would just pay for, I don't know, if someone flies there and gets some salary for a week, then it's different. For me, it's more long term. If you see what I mean.
And so what was that first mural that you did? That first mural that you did, what was the story behind that?
Oh, that was something. Yes, that was it was in a farm in North Sweden. It's not something very big. It's actually indoor, and it's a sunset on an indoor wall, and that's absolutely nothing special. But that's what made me think of it. In fact, It was when it was on a pilgrimage, St. Olafsleden, and I was walking. At that time, I could walk, and I was a long distance hiker, And I was walking this pilgrimage when I ran into that place, and that's how it started.
And then, right, what was it about that? Was it just like the scale of the work that you were able to scale up your work and make it bigger? What was it that made you want to do murals over again after that?
Well, it's just I like the idea that I could keep on making art and not having to
Mm-hmm.
get equipment, canvas, art easels, have to settle, or it just I just realized, you can just find places they will get everything. They will get the paint, they will get what you need, a scaffold, and then you will just paint it, and it will be your piece of art, and then you leave. Yeah, it was more the lifestyle.
So on your blog, you said that your lifestyle was nomadic. What does that mean? The nomadic lifestyle.
Nomadic, well, I guess it means that you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a home base.
And so, what was your favorite place that you've traveled to so far?
Well, this is a tough question because I didn't travel to many countries. So
Mm-hmm.
mostly I stayed in Sweden, and I'm still around Sweden. So
What
I
was your
really
favorite
don't
place
know.
in Sweden?
Well, but I no, but I was in Spain also, and I have to say that I was really surprised how, yeah, Granada is a very special place. Because sometimes people tell you, oh, this is a special place, but I never found special what people tell me is special. But
Mm-hmm.
people say that all over the world about Granada, and it was true for many reasons. So I would
Granada.
say Granada is a special place. And of course, in Sweden, well, I don't know, there's so many places. It's hard to say. Yeah,
But what was it
I
about Granada?
Well, first of all, there it was in the mountain. It was very, very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen mountains for a while, also, and it had this very bohemian type of soul, where there are also a lot of other artists that sell their art on the stairs or by the old white the white town, and also because I was offered to stay in a house in the old town as a house sitter, just completely randomly for 2 months. I didn't even have to work, make a mural for these people. It was just amazing that they just gave me the key and they said, you can just stay here for 2 months. It was a very old style house in on top of the old town, and it was the first time in many months, I think, that I hadn't had a place where I lived alone. And yeah, I mean, it was this, and also I made a lot of friends also that I really connected with. I made a mural also that was very symbolic for me because I wanted to symbolize the end of the pandemic. It was happening at that time where I was there, and someone said that I could paint on a wall that they absolutely didn't need to know what I was painting, and so yeah, all
That's
of that, I
nice.
guess, made it very special. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, do you get lonely when you're traveling then? I know you said you made lots of friends at the last place, but whenever you're traveling to new places, do you ever get lonely whenever you're like out on the road for a while or whenever you're in a new place?
The thing is, I would have maybe sadly, but I've always been a loner. Like when I was settled, I think I was even more lonely because I couldn't, for some reason, connect with. I didn't really have friends where I lived. I never had friends where I lived. For some reason, it was always people in different places that I would communicate with on the phone. So
Mm-hmm.
it really didn't make a big change for me because these friends are still on my phone. Maybe it's sad, but uh, but loneliness comes more when, because I told you I have some issues for walking, chronic foot problem, and when it's really bad and when I have trouble walking or painting, yeah, then I completely close myself and it's very hard to make to talk to people, and then I start feeling lonely because I completely disconnect myself.
Mm.
So it comes from this. But if I feel good and I can make friends. That's why also I stay in places like I prefer to stay around 2 months. I don't backpack. I don't visit things for 3 days and go there and there. I prefer to have these friends there and I connect and I have a bit of life in one place. I can even like I spent 2 winter. I stayed 5 months in the same place, but not in the same apartment. I still moved monthly, but and then you have a bit of life and then you're ready to leave because otherwise it feels I think it feels even worse if you just move a lot. I mean, okay, it is a lot of moving already every month or 2 months, but I can come back also.
Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, because I've traveled to do artwork as well, and you know,
Yeah,
like I went down to like different, only in America so far, but like all around America, like and then
great.
normally what we'll do is like a month at a time, or like 2 months at a time, and
Yeah,
that's the best because then you have time to like actually enjoy yourself a little bit, and you get time to like
yeah, right.
relax, and you get to you'll maybe get to know your neighbors in that time, you know, like of where you're
Yes,
staying. You'll get to know who's beside you. Maybe you go have a dinner with them. Maybe you could go like learn a little bit about the
yes.
city that you wouldn't see on the first day. And it's not such a rush to go see everything right away. And it's like, oh, go look at this. Now it's
Oh
time for the
yeah,
next
I
thing,
hate
next
it.
thing, next thing, and then it's all over with and it's gone. And all you have left is just a bunch of pictures as opposed to like the
Yes.
actual experiences of being there. And so I really love the staying
Yeah,
somewhere for a month at a time too. Anything shorter, it does feel kind of rushed, especially if you're
yes,
doing a
same
big
for me.
journey. Yeah, so I relate to that a lot.
And but did you paint mural?
Yeah.
Was it what kind of artwork did you do?
So
Oh
so
yeah. Oh, that's great.
whenever I went
Yeah. Oh,
we went to Texas because I live in Maryland, and so that's like it's like all the way across the like halfway across the country to go down to Texas. But we booked an Airbnb down there, and this is like 2 years ago, and because we live in a small little town, and so there just wasn't a whole lot of opportunities for work. I had done like my first couple murals here, and
yeah.
but
That's the thing. As a muralist, you need to move.
yeah, because it's like you can't exhaust all the possibilities in one town right away. Because sometimes people they're like,
Exactly.
I want one, but it's going to be like next year, and it's like, well, I need to, you know, I need to do something next
Right.
week. And so we actually booked the Airbnb in Austin for a month, and that was like the last of little bit of our money, and we didn't have any jobs lined up. We were just like fingers crossed, let's go down there and hope this works. And so we went down there,
Yeah.
we started calling some places and like we made some posts online, and then we ended up finding a job that was 2 years
Also.
ago. And then this year we ended up finding a job that paid for the whole trip, and we came back with a little bit extra. And then after that, then later on in the year we went down to Miami, and then we did that for a month, and then Miami like blew up. Like we did, I think it was like 7 murals in the month that we were down in Miami, and they were, most of them were all for like the same
Yeah, it works very
for the
well.
same doctor. And so we found the doctor and we did it for the doctor's office, like landscape, nature themed, different animals and stuff. And then after that, I was like, we got to try this again. So we went back to Texas at the beginning of this year, and then we booked 2 months. And once again, we didn't have any jobs lined up yet. We were just like, we just knew we were going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And so we went, and after 2 months of being there, we ended up doing 10 murals in the first 2 months, and that was in January and
Wow.
February. And so now we're
Yeah,
like,
I have the feeling we always end up finding something, no? As in, because painting mural is not so common like every of your neighbor will do. So people are quite impressed when you say no, like, oh, you're a muralist, and then you show your portfolio maybe, and
Exactly, yeah, and it is competitive in some of the cities, like you know,
of
in
course,
some places, it's like there's not any competition here in like my hometown. Like it's really small, and there's not really any other mural artists who are really any good, and so but then like in cities you'll go and there's mural artists who are just amazing, and they do like crazy,
yeah,
like just unbelievable pieces of all different types of styles, and they'll just be really pushing the boundaries. And so those ones I'm always like, oh man, like, you know, this is really good work. Like I gotta make sure I step my game up here and like, you know, put on a good presentation whenever I go pitch. And so like at
yeah,
the beginning of this year when we were calling people, I mean, it was like 2 weeks in, and we hadn't had any luck so far. Everybody's like, I'm not interested, not interested, not interested. And we're like, you know, if we don't find something, we're going to be coming back empty handed. And so we wanted to find something. And then we ended up finding one person who like wanted like 6 murals at the same time on a playground.
how that I'm surprised when you say that 6 mural, 10 mural, but where? Because usually people have a business. Oh, there is one wall, but
Yeah.
where do they have 10
It
mural? The same
it was
person.
so the one was a school, and so they had this giant playground area, and they had all these concrete
Right.
walls around it. And so it's like this huge like
Ah, yeah, yeah.
complex. It was like a little community. Like it was all gated off. Like the whole entire school was a private school, and so they had these walls all the way around the like the playground, and they're like, you know, we want the whole playground done. And so technically it was one mural, I guess, but they were sectioned off. So it was like, like here would be one section, and then this
Right,
section of the
right.
wall would be a different mural.
Oh,
And so we
yes.
did the animal kingdom theme, and so
Yes.
we did like all different types of animals and stuff. And then we actually did two other schools too when we were down in Texas, and but yeah, I love doing them for
Yeah,
schools. Schools is great,
yeah.
especially like private schools are a little bit better because public schools you have a lot more like hoops to jump through and a lot more people that you have to like get approve of it. But private schools are a little bit easier because usually there's less decision makers.
Yeah, because I was gonna say when you're in a city, sometimes there are lots of competition, but the people that I don't know if it's the same for you, but when I post online, it's sometimes people that have no idea about muralists, or they just see you and they're like, "Oh, that's a good idea. I have a school." You know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
doesn't even matter because for them, it's not like they know. Oh, let's try to find a mural. But also the muralists that are well known, I think they're contracted more easily maybe by the city or some
Hmm.
this network. And but yeah, I have the feeling the people that ask me, I don't know if it's the same for you, but it's not people that know about this. Like they don't know how, like, who are the muralists in the city. They're just like, I see that and it's cool and I didn't see that before.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Like it's not like they're gonna choose who is the best, or like it's like you stand out because they see also, oh, but that's a good idea, I never thought of it.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a lot of that where there's people who who they just love the idea, and that's one of the things that I like about the internet really is it closes the gaps in the world, and so like people can't buy
Yeah.
from you if they don't know you, and if they don't know who
Yeah.
you are, and so if you know who somebody is, then you have the opportunity to know what they do, and then you have the opportunity to maybe do something with them, and so like the internet really helps out with that for me, and I think for almost all artists who use it right, who they could go out and they could find people they could post on a Facebook group, and then someone says, oh wow, I've never I never even knew that you could do that on a wall, but I actually think that that would look good on my wall.
Yeah.
And but
Yeah, what is good is to find your niche place where to post also, where people don't expect this to be here. Like, of course, if there was a website, find a muralist, and then you find maybe
mhm.
20 per city, of course, it would be different. You would really have to show, oh, okay, this is your style, or this, yeah.
Yeah, and there are more competitive options, like where people have, like call for artists. I don't know if they do that a lot,
Yes,
like, but they do it in America a lot. Like,
absolutely. No, I applied a lot. I was actually chosen only the first I applied ever, and never after. It was a street art festival for a city walls in a place in Spain, and that
hmm.
was the first time I applied for anything 1 year ago, and that's the one that selected me. But since I have applied a lot, but I haven't been selected. But it's also they were too big, I think. So it's better, I think, to apply first. Maybe I will try maybe small ones where I am, like if I see.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I do also a lot of these, as you say. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and but the call for artists though, they seem more of like those people are looking for something very specific, and so a
Yeah.
lot of times, they may choose somebody else's work just because it's a little bit more in the direction that they want, and those people are
Hmm.
also maybe going to be more picky about the design for those call to artist projects. Not always
Hmm.
the case, but like ones for commissions, especially for like a city or something, but ones for like a private client where you like a small business,
Well, I have yeah.
the small businesses, they're just going to be like, I think, a lot more trusting usually, and like, yeah, do whatever you think is going to look
Yeah,
good.
maybe. No, you're right. Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience in this. The one I was selected for, it was really, I just made the sketch. They really liked it. They said we want, but it was an international one, so no one was from the same
Oh
country, but there
wow.
were more people from the area finally. So I don't know, maybe also they thought, oh, we never had someone from Switzerland and we like, it can be also that they wanted more, that it was international, and maybe more people from I don't know. Or sometimes it's the opposite. They want locals only because it's a local context, and then I don't apply if it's written, of course.
Hmm. So
But this one was an international one, but it was small as well, like small city, very small.
so you were doing art before you were doing murals. What was that? What
Yeah.
was that like? I remember you said you were doing canvases and stuff, but like, were you doing art full time? Were you doing a different job? What was life like before mural art?
Well, I mean, I pretty much been doing. art for my whole life. I mean, my parents were artists too, so I always saw my mom exhibiting and doing stuff, different techniques.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, she didn't really teach me anything. I was more into realistic stuff, portraits before. So I was selected for a few art school. I didn't follow them until the end. But so yeah, so I pretty much always was into art and becoming artist. But no, it was never my full-time job. Actually, in the beginning, it was just so I was in this art school, but I was also just drawing, sketching, and then when I was in my 20s, I just made series of canvas. Before I did some more art installation or clay sculpture, I made a huge model of Geneva. That was the first thing I ever did that was in the media, like a big scale model, but
Mm-hmm.
in an artistic way, and it was exhibited in different places in Switzerland. And then I focused, but then after it was more canvas, like series of canvas, black and white body parts with like it really depends. I changed the style also. Some exhibition, a few per year, but no, I actually was a language teacher, self-employed for 7 years before this, and before these 7 years, for another 5 years, I worked in an office, and before I worked, so yeah, it really wasn't my full-time job. It's only now that is my main activity for the last 3 years and a half that I've been traveling.
And
Yeah, no, before I didn't even know it could be possible. Like I know it was not my main source of income at all.
yeah, it was very similar for me too. I didn't really know, like, no one really told me, like, oh, hey, you should try out murals. And I just kind of tried one. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh shit, I'm gonna do more of these. This seems pretty cool. You
that's
know?
so cool how we end up in things, right?
Yeah,
Destiny.
yeah. It was actually probably about 3 years ago for me too. Yeah, it was probably
Oh
right
yeah,
around that time, right around like 2020. But what was it like?
how
What
cool.
was it like growing up in Switzerland? Like, what are the schools like there? What's life like growing up there?
It's interesting because I had a very, very good friend from California that said one that Switzerland is probably the country that is the most similar to the US for him. Because I talked about Spain, I talked about Sweden, but it's probably not
Mm-hmm.
the same. But there are a lot of private things because in Sweden, for example, nothing is private. If you're not in the system, it's very hard to find a doctor because they don't want you to pay. They want you to be in the system and live there officially. But in Switzerland, everything is private. So, but not the school though. That's interesting. No, I mean the school. I never. No, it's not that common to go to private school unless you are rich or you want some kind of you want your kids to speak English or I don't know. But yeah, there are private schools, but no, it's not common for every Swiss people. So I mean, I grew up. I don't know. I guess in a normal way. I don't know. I went to school. I didn't go to school after. So I went to school up till I was 15. Then I went to this art school for 5 months. Then it didn't work. And then 5 years later, I was accepted in another art school, university level, but I didn't follow it. So I pretty much finished school at 15 and I never went back there after. So I did a lot of different jobs in between. But what was it to grow up in Switzerland? Well, I don't know what else to say. It was I mean I didn't live in a mountain area or like I mean it was Geneva, so all the mountains around were French, but it wasn't in the mountain. I mean it's at low level. It's a
Mm-hmm.
city that is what 300,000 inhabitants. Um, but yeah, a lot of mountains around, so you can also go hiking or skiing.
So you said you went to an art
But
class, like an art school when you were like 15. Um,
yes, it was after obligatory school.
what's obligatory school?
Yeah, of course, because it's not well in Switzerland. You have at least when I was younger. I don't know now. It must have been completely different. But around 20 years ago, you finish school at 15, and then
That sounds
you can choose what
awesome.
you want to do. Like you want to. Yeah, no, but after normally you do something like they call it apprenticeship. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like if you find an apprenticeship, then you can be a shop seller or I don't know. But you are still learning for
Yeah.
3 years or 4 years. But you're working. You have a salary already. All
Mm-hmm.
kind of jobs. But if you wanna go to university, you can go to a kind of high school, I guess, if you have the grades. And then if you don't have the grades, you can go to kind of like a general school also. So there are many different schools you can go to. Um, but I follow also a bit of it, but yeah, not much. But I was lucky because then I found a lot of different jobs, and I also learned how to do graphic designs. So I did many different things, but I didn't go to school.
So whenever you were in like this program after like you were like 15 or something, whenever you were in this art program, did you learn anything from there that you use today?
Well, I was only for 5 months there, to
Mm-hmm.
be honest. So because then there were another selection and they didn't choose me because I didn't show at that age. I didn't show big interest. But I would say I remember learning about colors and a bit of technical drawing. But to be honest, I don't even remember that much. I don't think I learned really anything that I use now. Like I can't say for sure, maybe,
Mm-hmm. Where did you?
but it's such a small period.
Yeah, where did you learn to paint?
I would say it's only like I just improved, like I mean, I saw my mom do that, but it was not the same style. So I cannot say that I copied her because I never saw her paint portraits or anything. I would say I just tried, and it's just like a trying thing, over the years you realize this works, this doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I learned, I just learned by myself. It's the same when I don't know, when you try to build stuff with your hands and you're like, oh, that looks good, like a sculptor, like you observe another sculptor, like for example portrait. I guess I would observe faces and I would just try to draw them,
Mm-hmm.
and then you improve over the time, and people maybe give you tips. I don't know. I don't know if I really learned
So it was
from
very.
anything
It
special.
sounds like it was very. It
Observing.
sounds like it was very natural, like just a very natural way that it unfolded of how you learned. Like you didn't have a teacher telling you like, here's how you do this and
No.
here's how you do this. Like there wasn't much of that. It
Yeah.
was there wasn't that books that you were reading or anything like that. It was just observing. Were you drawing from life,
Yeah, observing.
drawing from nature, drawing from
Yeah.
life, drawing from photos? Like,
Yes. From photos a lot, of course. Like I take a picture of my hand if I want to draw a hand, and then I
mm-hmm,
draw the hand, and then I draw other stuff around, like, yeah. But of course it's always observing. Like I'm surprised sometimes people, like, they tell me, oh, but it was from the picture, but can you just draw it your own? And I said, yeah, but I mean, I need to observe. How would I do how would I draw a good hand if I don't observe it? Like for me it's like it can't be. I don't know, maybe if you do it every day you can do it,
what do
but
you mean like drawing it from
I don't know.
imagination?
For me, it doesn't work if I don't observe. Like, yeah, because you know what I mean. Like, I want it to look realistic, so I will take a picture of my hand. I would change the
Mm-hmm.
position, and then I would observe it, and then I would draw it, and then of course I could change the color, or like it could be different. It doesn't have to look the same, but the shape, the wrinkles. How would I imagine the light, for example? How would I like,
Yeah.
or the wrinkles? Like, I need to observe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, was there lots of art galleries in the area when you where you grew up or where you travel now? Do you go see art galleries often?
Not often, because to be honest, art galleries, they're not really on my ways. When I stay in a city, yeah, sometimes it can happen that I go. But here, for example, in the mountains, no, there. I don't know where go. If I have time one day, I will go down to town and see.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I go to art gallery, yeah, when I stay in a city to get inspiration. But I would say that I go more to museums, and modern museums. And yeah, I don't often go to specifically art galleries, but more like, yeah, outdoor exhibitions sometimes I saw, or yeah, museums, modern art, or all of that. Maybe I should do more art gallery, but because sometimes I'm embarrassed stepping into some small galleries, and maybe the person thinks I'm gonna buy. You know what I mean? When you go to a museum, it's different because it's just to look at it. But
Yeah.
sometimes I feel embarrassed about the money thing. Like I go to these small art galleries where they exhibit, but like I know some galleries, and I know that every time the door comes, they're like, oh, he's gonna buy or she's gonna
Yeah.
buy. And if
Yeah.
I come and I'm like, oh, that's cool, I'm a nomadic mural artist, and they're like, oh, that's great, but maybe in their mind, like, yeah, but why is never coming into this art gallery to buy anything? So yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes I have some embarrassment about these kind of art galleries. It's not their fault. It's great, but I feel embarrassed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for anybody listening, the difference between like the art galleries and the museums would be like you have the art galleries would be like the places where like usually living artists will have works for display and they'll generally be for
Yeah.
sale. The museums, now this
Yeah.
is just an overgeneralization, but the
Definitely.
museums would be the
Yeah.
place where it would be maybe artists who are dead who like their works are not for sale. They're just there to look at and to admire, and then something like that. Now, this is not always the case that
But they're
the
not always dead.
yeah, as I was
Yeah.
saying,
Sorry, no,
it's a much over generalization, but
yeah.
generally speaking, it'll be like those artworks aren't for sale; they're just for display. And the reason I
Yeah,
think that
exactly.
most of them are dead is because most of the time, whenever the artists are living, they're like, "Hey, I still want to sell the work."
Yeah, that's interesting because I saw a lot of exhibitions, art installation that are provisory. So they're organized by artists from now, like, but yeah, they're not for sale. Or maybe they are, and I ignore it, but I don't think so. You know what I mean? Like, it's more like, maybe, I don't know, they have an arrangement with the museum, but this is a collection, like, or this is an art installation, like, just for the museum they made,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I really like to see this kind of temporary exhibition. But yeah, I don't know about you, but for me, this is a kind of also a reason why I prefer also make murals. And I have this embarrassment about art for sale and or overpricing art, or some people say, oh, but I cannot touch it because it's a piece of art. Like for me, it's like, for example, my mural will be covered some days because the weather, or I don't know, it will get old and it will get, I don't care. Like, I mean, for me, it's not something sacral, because, or it's not something I price, like, okay, this is $1,000 and be careful not to damage it. It's like, well, I make art, I share it. It's not that it's bad to sell art, but I have embarrassment about, yeah, like pricing my art, or I don't know. It's like, for me, it's like it makes the art difficult for me to talk about, or when people ask me price.
Yeah, I completely
Yeah, but
relate.
I mean,
Yeah,
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 do
yeah.
you? I mean, of course, we price our murals. It's also hard, but I mean, it's a bit different because it's a one-time thing. It's not like you have prices and people look. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, for me, the murals was the way. The murals were a way to get out of that dilemma because I was doing these paintings on canvas where I was like really attached to the paintings and I really loved the paintings and I felt like people just weren't really quite understanding them and they didn't really want what I was asking for them, and so I was like, I don't really want to keep. I don't want to like sell them to like if I can't find anybody that's really interested or that understands them. Like because if someone really loves it, they're gonna want it. If they really love it and like and they gotta have it, they gotta have it. But like trying like you can't force somebody to want something that they don't want. That just doesn't make sense. And I'm like, why
Yeah,
would I
true.
want somebody to buy this who doesn't even really like it that much? Whenever
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
it, I would rather just keep it. And so it's like, well, then that doesn't really solve the problem of money, though. And so murals kind of were the way to like, after my first mural, it's like, oh wow, I made the same amount of money for this painting that I did because it was my first painting, my first mural. It was like 2 weeks that I had taken to do, and I got paid like $2,000 for it. And I was like, oh wow, like that's more than like any piece that I've ever sold so far.
Yeah,
And so I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is, and that was 2 weeks
That's
of
really art.
work as opposed to spending 2 months and then, like not even be guaranteed an exhibit. Now, like, cause
Yeah,
it's right on,
exactly,
it's also on a
right?
public corner. So everybody's going to see it for years to come. And so I'm like, okay, well, this is nice because now I don't have to worry about like having, like you said, having to store it, having to do all that. It's already being stored. It's
Yes.
being stored on the side of the building. And so like it was just like, okay, well this is, and so now I look at the murals as like, okay, this is what I'm doing for them, and then the paintings is what I'm doing for me. And so like I'll have like, so
Right.
I'll think and I'll try to like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like,
Yeah.
so I'll
Yeah,
do
of
one for
course. No,
them
it
and then
does.
I'll do one for me, and that way I could have it's like,
Oh,
yeah, so that way.
interesting. But you mean, yeah, tell me, sorry.
Yeah, well, just basically like that way if there's something that I really want to paint, like I'm gonna paint it regardless, whether someone pays me to do it or not, because I feel like it needs to be
Yes.
there.
Oh, same, same.
Yeah,
Yes.
but if somebody wants
But
something,
don't,
yeah,
yeah, but don't you have the feeling over time? Because before, when I started like 3 years and a half ago, like
mm-hmm,
after this mural I told you about in the farm, I was like, oh, let's ask people what they want to paint, and they pay me, and I paint a giraffe or whatever. But then I don't do that anymore, because then I realize what that if they like what I do, they can orient it. They say, can you do this, what you do usually, but more in a natural way, or and then it's your mural anyway. And now I never, for example, I never ask, I mean, they tell me a bit of stuff, but I never say, what do you want me to do, what I mean?
mm-hmm,
And so now, before, it would be like this, like I would be, oh, I want to make this I specifically this, so I will find a wall, but I know, of course, no one will pay me. But now they're the same. You know what I mean? What I want to do or what people want to do. Like, for example, I do these giant envelopes with our postcards, and it's like
Yeah.
the wall is a postcard. But this, I can do, you know what I mean? Like, anyone could want to have it, but I would change the topic of the thing a little bit, but I still consider them my mural. Like, I don't have any cleavage anymore, because then it cannot be in my portfolio if it's really, of course, if someone want to pay very well for a private house and say, copy this picture, then I would still do probably, but I mean, then I would do for quite a lot of money, because I would be, okay, this is not for my portfolio. This is not, unless the accommodation is great. Like, I don't know, like they give me a house for a month or two, but yeah, it would be less fun. Like, and for them too, because don't they want, like, they want the artist to sign, right? So they cannot, if they say copy this picture, then you don't really want to sign it because it's not really yours. Or how does it work? What do you think about this?
Yeah, well, I've done something kind of like copying where I'll do the way I learned how to paint was remaking like old Renaissance master paintings. And so like I would take like Leonardo da
Oh
Vinci,
yeah, right. I
Michelangelo,
saw it.
Raphael, and I'm like,
Yeah,
how did Rembrandt light his figures? How did Leonardo da Vinci dissolve his shadows into like this ethereal realm of nothingness?
yeah,
How did Michelangelo build contrast? And so I looked for all those things
yeah.
and I tried to study all that. And so like my first couple works were usually just these remakes, but I would still sign them because they obviously didn't really look much like the actual master's paintings.
Yeah,
But then whenever they started to like, I started to get
true.
the hang of it. I'm like, okay, now
Yeah,
I feel like I could kind of start to do what they're doing. Then, then I was like, okay, I need to switch it up stylistically. And so now, if I'll use like a photograph for a reference for something, I mean, normally what I'll try to do is like I'll try to take multiple photographs, and that way it's like a combination. That way it's not just like a remake of one particular image.
yeah,
And so even if
of
it's like an
course,
old
yes,
master
same.
painting, like there's one that I did of Saint Michael versus Satan, and he's like they're locking him into the underworld for 1,000 years, and it's actually after an old Renaissance painting, an old Baroque painting that's already been painted. But what I did is like I went and I actually went and like posed for the picture. We went and lit it, and I like redrew the anatomy and redid the colors, redid the
Oh
fabric,
wow.
and redesigned the whole entire thing. So it's like it's the same compositionally, but the whole entire image is different. And so I was like, I feel like I earned my
Yeah,
signature on that because the the the
of
general
course.
idea is the same, but like I changed almost everything in it. And so
No, but this is different. No, no, absolutely. Yeah. And this is
hmm
a style, I guess, to be, into old master redesigning. I mean, as you said, like the style as an inspiration. Like, this is, no, but this is completely different. But I was thinking because very, very early, like, I think the second mural I did was a guy showed me that he had a logo, with different. She said, can you do this on the wall? And then I didn't sign it because it was really, can you do my logo? It was a complicated thing. I made it big, but I mean, I didn't really want to sign it because I didn't really even like it. It was a logo that I copied. But in your case, it's completely different, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, I would feel the same way about a logo, and that's why I'm kind of hesitant to do logo pieces unless they allow me to like, spice it up, add some
Yeah,
style to it or something. Because I mean,
yeah,
especially too, because some of the pieces are minimalistic that I'll do, and I feel like sometimes the signature gets in the way of the piece because it's like, especially if there's no
yeah,
words on the piece, and then you look at it, your eye kind of goes right to the word and or like the letters,
yeah,
and so
right.
I'll try
I
to
see.
find ways to like hide the signature to where it maybe blends in a little bit more with the background. But then other times where if it's a public mural and I feel like, hey, this is gonna be good publicity, I'll try to find a good place to put the signature where everybody could see it and can read it well.
Oh,
That
yeah,
way,
yeah, no, I
they'll
get that.
know who painted it too. So it's a like the
It's the
signature
same
is
for
a
me.
weird thing. And whenever I first started off, I made some poor decisions about where I put my signatures, and made some of them way too big and extravagant. And I was like, but I think over time, I think you artists get the hang of where they need to put their signatures at.
But I do exactly the same as you do. Like, usually, like, when it's a wall outdoor, like, I seem very big. Like, I mean, I sign my Instagram tag, and I sign,
Uh-huh.
like, I mean, it's outdoor. So, but that's the same when I paint something for a private person or when it's small. And then I'm like, yeah, but I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna do my initials. Or, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, if someone want to know who painted it, they will ask because it's a private area. So
hmm
it's not difficult. No, I do exactly the same as you do. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it doesn't match, and it also depends on places. But I think it's normal to sign quite big if it looks good sometimes. Also, as you say, sometimes it doesn't look good to have characters like or letters, but sometimes it's the opposite. Like it adds something because I make it also a little bit half vanished. Like I match with and I
Yeah.
do it with like these like street art pencils. So now sometimes it's the opposite. It looks really cool to have the tag.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you could have your
But yeah, I understand
fonts.
100%.
Yeah. And you can play around with fonts too. And, it's like
Yeah, yeah,
maybe something needs more italicized font. Maybe something needs something nice, big, and bold. Maybe something needs something more ornate. Maybe something needs something simple. Like there's a lot of different stuff you could do with
yeah,
fonts that where you could pick the font to match the picture. So I mean, I think signing a picture is like that's kind of like the signal that like, hey, this is done, and I am willing to put my name on this because I'm proud of this. And so like what you said about the piece where it's like maybe you weren't so happy about that. It's like I don't want to put my name on that. That makes sense because it's
yeah,
like that's not really something that's you. That's something that was their logo, and so that makes sense. But if you create this picture and you draw it up and you come up with this idea, then I wouldn't see why anyone would not want to sign their pieces.
yeah. No, for sure. But do you use also? I'm just thinking. Do you use spray paint or do you use brushes only? Right? Do you use brushes
I,
as
I
well
use
or only?
brushes. I've messed around with some spray paint, but I'm not very good at it yet. So,
Okay, so I was thinking because you talked about master painting and yeah,
uh-huh.
like yeah, so you do use brushes more and you started.
Yeah, I just interviewed a graffiti artist last week, someone who works like almost all in spray paint, and so I got to go and learn a little bit about that. And he was talking to me about the different pressure valves and all that, and
Yeah,
so I think that one of the ones he was talking about like high pressure and low pressure spray paint. And so like the high pressure spray paint is like normally what the standard spray paint is. It just comes out really fast, and so you have to like you
mm-hmm.
almost have to paint really fast. But he's talking about if you want to do
True.
blends and stuff, you got to get the low pressure spray paint, and
Yeah.
that's where you have more control and do fine lines and blends. And so I've only worked with high pressure spray paint, so I'm gonna have to try out some low pressure and see if that'll work better for my style, because all the works I've done so far is spray paint. I'm not very proud of those ones. Do you work with spray paint? I saw you spray painted the
No,
background for one of
yeah,
your
okay, but
pieces.
so that's the interesting thing. Like normally, so I've always worked with brushes, but like like 6 months ago, I wanted to use spray paint. I used a bit already, but not for detail things. So I made this big eye
Mm-hmm.
in Malmo, in Sweden. And to be honest, it was so realistic. Like it was my first shot, and it looked even like as good as if I had brushes. So I was first very happy. I was like, oh, I can use it. But you know what? I hate this idea. Like I can't wear a mask because they're too small for my face, too big for my face. Like I still smell it,
Mm.
and I really don't like having anything on my face. Like it doesn't work. I hate the smell. I realize it's really not my style, to be spraying. Like, I don't know. I don't like anything about this. I like the look, but even though I was thinking, yeah, but I mean, there are muralists that do very, very big things with rolls and brushes. So, I was trying to force myself into it thinking that I would be faster, but actually, no, because I was as fast as when I had brushes. So I think it depends, but sometimes it's temptful. I'm like, oh, I could just spray the background or just, but yeah, but I had some issues after doing it, because I did it without a mask, and then the mask didn't work, and then I had some issues. Like I don't want to bother to be bothered by anything,
Yeah,
like if it
yeah.
doesn't feel good, let's not do it because. But yeah, I mean it's personal. But yeah, no, strangely, I could manage to do very detailed thing. Also make a color by blending too. Like I just had black and white and I made gray. Like I don't know, it really, really worked well. But yeah, I gave up after 2 pieces.
Yeah, I noticed.
I didn't want it anymore.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Is like that was the reason I got into it. I was like, man, I see these mural artists who are working with spray paint, and they work fast. Like I see some people
Yeah.
have you ever seen any Kipto's videos on YouTube?
Who?
Kipto, it's like Kiptoe.
I think it rings a bell.
Yeah, he
Maybe.
makes YouTube videos about his mural paintings, and he uses spray paint.
Might be.
And he was the one who kind of like really got me into like wanting to videotape the murals and like make YouTube videos about it because I saw all of his videos and like I was really blown away. But he
Wow,
does
yeah.
spray paint work and he just does it so fast and I was blown away about how fast he does and so I was like I got to try out this spray
Yeah.
paint. But and especially things like brick too, and or like fences, because with fences you have the two posts, and then you'll go run the brush across, and then it'll
Yes.
create this drip
That's a
that'll
thing.
run down. And so I'm like, man,
Yes.
this is taking 10 times longer, or you have to get
Yes, this is
inside of the
true.
cracks and stuff. And so it's like if you spray paint, it'll just be like one. You can pull lines faster,
Yeah.
but
For this, yeah, I agree.
yeah, and so maybe for like textured surfaces, I'll have to go back to it. But for now, luckily, most of them have been smooth enough to where we could do brushes. And then like roller brushes work great for doing background, big
Yeah, right.
pieces, stuff like that. So
But I really thought the same about the time. But then I met also muralists that do big thing in just a few days with roller and brushes. So then that's how I was like, okay, but it must not be about. And then I realized the reason why, because I don't know about you, but I'm so slow. Like it would take me a month to make like a mural on I don't know, a 2-floor facade. But okay, it's also because I don't work 10 hours per day because I have lessons and I'm just not a
hmm
person that would like want to do 10.
yeah,
I
yeah,
prefer to, okay, 5 hours per day. But anyway, but I think I know why, because also as I started, I don't know if it's the same for you, but as I started as a painter on canvas, it's very detailed because it's small, and also because my technique, I'm the kind of person that detail. Maybe you too, because you are painting master pieces, and but when it's really big, you don't see the details. So I realized these muralists that made this big portrait with roller and brushes. When you go close, it's very, very. You can see there is no detail when you go close. It's only when you see from the distance. And I realized that's something I need to try to learn how to make less detail, but still have it look good from the distance. Because that's how they go fast. You know what I mean? It's not because
yes.
they're spraying or painting. It's because they don't get into this kind of details that I do. They just do it like this, and it works.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said right there explains the problem with so many young artists who like over detail their work. I was guilty of that. Like, one of my first things I wanted to learn is I wanted to learn texture. And so, like, I got obsessed with all these different textures you could draw. I was like, oh, I could draw fur texture and this texture and that texture. And my works were detailed, but that was like the only good thing someone could say about it. It's like, oh wow, that has a lot of detail.
True.
But compositionally, you step back and it just all blurs together. And I think that's one of the things that doing large scale works helps you out with is because you can't detail corner to
True.
corner the whole entire piece because it's just like time doesn't. If you have a little canvas, 8 by 10 canvas, you could work away and fiddle away with details forever. And sometimes that produces amazing results. But for like something large scale, like you said, you don't have like people, especially if it's something far away or like up on the top of a building, no one's going to get that close to it anyways. And so, have you ever heard of the
Yeah.
333 rule?
No.
Okay, so it's a great rule for composition of painting. It's it's that
Ah.
it's the painting should look good from 3 inches, from 3 feet, and from 30
Uh-huh.
feet away. And so, like, if you step back and the painting doesn't look good from 30 feet away, then maybe something's off with the composition, like your contrast isn't right, you know? Like that painting of the hand behind you
Interesting.
that I could see, I could tell exactly what it is. It looks great, that painting of like the hand with the black and the white back behind you, like I could just tell right away. And so that would be a perfect example of something that like that looks good from a distance and I can't really quite see it up close, but I'm sure it looks great from up close too. And so that's kind of like the
Yes.
theory behind it is like you want it to look good enough from a distance to pull people in, but also like you want it to look good enough from close up to where they're going to want to stay and explore it a little bit. But with a mural on the side of a building, you don't necessarily need the 3 inches rule, because no one's going to get like this far away
Yeah.
from the mural looking at it. So I think, like for like it depends on how far away someone can get or how close. But I always try to think about that with the composition. Like if someone's going to be seeing it from how far away could somebody see it from, and then like step all the way back there and see, does it make sense? Then how close up is someone going to see
Yeah.
it from? Get as close as you
But
can.
that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry. No. Tell me. Sorry.
Yeah, and then whenever you get up close, you
This.
want to make sure that like oh, it looked good from back there, but when you get up close, it don't look right anymore. So like maybe there does need to be more detail then at that point. And so I think that's
Yeah,
a
but
good,
that's why I'm
yeah.
so. Yeah, tell me.
I just think
That's
that's a
why
great way to decide of like how to do the like how to choose the right amount of detail for you.
this 3 feet 3 inches, great. Yeah. No, but I think that that's the problem I have because most of the mural I made was not that big, and it's still like, for example, even here it's big, but there is a part that is like going like this, and it's like a human size, and people pass right by. So
Hmm.
of course I want to make it right in details. You know what I mean? Like I never had a surface where it's like there was once, but finally it was canceled, and it's a pity because it was really like you could only look up. It was already hidden, it was on the second floor, and you see like 3 more floor, but you couldn't go close. This would have been a good exercise because it would have been like, okay, no one can ever get close, so you have to make a design that looks good from really the distance. Yeah, but that's the interesting thing. I've always thought one day if they give me like a 25 floor like here, of course I will not get into detail. I will really learn how, like I will just try and see how it works, but I will definitely remember this. But now it's like people go and like, oh, I love the detail. Like, of course you have no detail because they go nearby, but not too much. No, now I'm much better. Of course, that's the thing. We go with experience. Like things that would take me a week now take a day. Like I still learned a lot from when I started. Now I'm absolutely not gonna like make it really completely detailed for even when you go close. I mean, unless it's a small piece, yeah, it has to match the whole thing, no matter if you can go close or not.
Do you have any subject matter that you haven't got to paint yet that you want to paint? Any sort of theme?
That's interesting because I used to have before, but like right now, it's more like it comes. Like for example, this envelope thing. It's like a few months ago I started doing it. It's more step by step. I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is cool. I do this, but I don't have like one thing that I already know I will want to do. You know what I mean? Like it's like next week I'm gonna paint on a restaurant boat in Göteborg in Sweden, and it's like a pirate theme with like, I guess this is the kind of thing I would want to do. So it's
A
really good that
pirate
I
theme?
found it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like it's a pirate boat restaurant with the pirate flag. But I don't see you anymore. I don't know if the connection is it's on my side. I don't know what I did.
But we can get ready to wrap up now. I have a couple more questions though. Like, what I wanted to know, what do you look for whenever you're traveling? Like, what do you look for your work or for your adventures or for your travels? What calls you to a certain place?
Well, first of all, like I like what you said, that it's important to highlight that when you want to really be a full-time muralist, you don't find it in the same city or the same place. Like it's more like, as you said, it's better to move around.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do it for that reason because I want to keep painting a lot of more murals, and my goal is really on that. I want more city walls. I want to have things that are bigger and more visible. So my goal is almost only artistic. I'm not really that much of a traveler in my soul anymore because, to be honest, like I'm also hesitant even leaving Scandinavian because I learned how to speak Swedish quite fluently now, and for me, as I don't fly, if I leave completely the area, it means that it would take a while. I would go step by step. I would go one country to one country, but it's not. I won't easily come back. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
very hesitant in like leaving Sweden. So I'm not really the kind of person that want to go to one country 1 month, one country 1 month, because it's too much, because it's my lifestyle. It's not like I take 6 months in my life, I'm going to travel, but it's been 3 years and a half. So yeah, I don't have this goal on visiting that many countries as many countries as I can. It's more like I want to really be fluent and know one culture very well, and maybe one day I will be bored and I will be like, I completely leave this area of the world, and then I will go somewhere else and maybe for a few years be somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a traveling goal. I'm not sure actually. It really, I planned things every 2 months, could be
Mm-hmm.
three, could be one. It really depends on the situation. but I have zero idea on what is after. I never have like a long-term goal. It's really like I meet someone that say you can do this next month. I'm like, okay, not next month, but the month after. And then I go to another city if no one ever asks, or someone asks me from another city. It really depends. But I really don't want to have a home base, because I think it's ridiculous to have a home base if you're never there. And if you don't fly like me, how would I get from places? You know what I mean? Like I would have, and I have free accommodation, sometimes very good place. So why would I pay for a place that I'm never in? You know what I mean? Like, it would be weird. It would be ridiculous in my case to pay for an apartment somewhere when I can have, I don't know, free accommodation somewhere else.
That sounds amazing. That sounds like you figured out like a
Really.
a cheat code to life. Like everybody is like like everybody's going in this one direction, and then you're like, oh wow, but yeah, that's a nice direction you're going in, but I actually feel called to go this way instead. And it seemed like you're following your passions. You're following what you love. You're doing what you love, and you're letting life unfold in a beautiful, natural way. And that's inspiring. So I really like that you do that, and I appreciate you sharing your story. What's next for your journey? Do you know where you're going next after Norway, or have you not decided yet?
No, I'm going to paint on that pirate boat, hopefully.
Oh well,
It's in a city I was first time before going to Norway, so I know the place already. I was 1 month there, so I'm going back there, and and I will paint there. I don't know, for 1 month normally, and after that I have to think.
that sounds awesome.
But it's in August, so it's.
So, Alisa, if people want to follow your work, if they want to catch up with you online, if they want to read your blog, where all can they go to do that? Like, what's the website? What's the Instagram? All of that.
Yes, well, my website is www.alhost, so host.ch. And it appears that the website is in French, but you can choose English, but I don't know how to manage to have it directly in English. But anyway,
yeah, I think
so,
if you open it up in America, it opened up for me in American. So,
okay.
yeah, I think
That's
it did
good.
that
No, because I have
automatically.
two versions. Okay, that's great. But my Instagram tag is this is also a bit complicated. This is at Tone Nomad Art. But if you type Alisa Host, I think you
Alisa
can
Host.
end up seeing it. Yeah. But it's
Okay. Well,
and I think I saw your website, but I'm gonna check again your work, because now I'm more curious because we talked. So
yeah,
about,
check it out. We'll have to
how
stay in
you
touch too.
started.
I really appreciate talking to you, and I appreciate you coming on today. And I look forward to seeing what
Thanks
you're
to
doing
you.
next.
Same. Same. Let's we keep following each other, and thanks again really for this talk. This was very interesting. I really need to talk to more muralists, because it's also very interesting to see what people do in other countries, and this is very important to help each other think or develop stuff and ideas on murals. So I really appreciate it, and I also appreciate the fact that I see that we have the same issues or ideas or about the signage. Yeah, it's really interesting how because I don't, sometimes of course I meet a lot of muralists when I have these kind of street art festivals, but not most of the time, because I work for some private or companies, hotels, so there are no other people there, of course, that paints.
Yeah, yeah.
So I cannot always share thoughts like with you and talk about the difficulties or how to find murals and all that. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why I wanted to do this podcast, is because I wanted to have an excuse to like be able to talk to people who do similar things,
That's
talk to people
great.
who do interesting things and learn about it. And so, yeah, I love it. Yeah, I
I
love
never saw
interviewing
any other
people.
podcast. That's great. Yeah, that's the first podcast about it that I see.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me, Alisa. You have a great day.
Thanks to you. Have a great day. So I will leave the phone open so that
All
you
right,
can
that sounds
upload
good.
it, right? Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, bye everybody.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.